Let's get cracking then.
Is that okay? Because it's 10:30.
A bit of virtual housekeeping. Your video isn't required until the breakouts, but you can keep it on if you want to, so we can all see you. If we can mute ourselves, including the person, whoever we can hear talking at the moment, just to reduce background noise. Lovely. We will send around the PowerPoints afterward, after the session, so you can see all this as well. And if we're hacked at any point, because we're on Zoom, if you can all put your hands to your head, close your eyes and look sad. Thank you. I don't actually know what I'm meant to do if we're hacked. So welcome to the SHP launch of Inform Lightning, everybody. Lightning is going to replace Inform Classic, which you may or may not know is what we currently use. And this virtual session today is hosted by me, Doug Becker, Assistant Director of Practice Development, Justin Sala, who's there.
Hi, everyone.
Data Manager, and Patrick Dougal.
Hi all, I'm the guy without a camera.
The guy without a camera in the background. And Justin's that little one in the middle. He's a tiny one in the middle. And welcome to Einstein, who's a bit of new gear, but we'll tell you a bit more about how he's going to help us out later on. First, everything changes but stays the same, which is how we're framing this. So we're going to have a quick look, everybody, at sort of what is different, really. What's different when we turn on the new platform? The main things really are how it looks. The one we use at the moment was brought in 2010. We've had it 10 years, and it does look a bit old and clunky. So this is just an upgrade, and it looks newer. It looks 2020. Patrick's done a very, very good job at being able to brand this one. So it's SHP branded. We have our own homepage, which you've probably already seen. And we have links on that homepage to things like the opportunities website, which I think is already pushing a bit more staff traffic through to that. So we've got a bit more control about how we brand the thing. And the main thing we're going to look at today a little bit is how the client page and all the related forms and a lot of the core stuff that you use and see every day, how that looks a little bit different. And then the feel of it, over to Justin.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to change the order of mine, but I'm going to just start with shortcuts and just very briefly what we are doing and making kind of regular things that you do a shortcut to, say, a client page. So, actions, rather than going to a timeline and doing an action that way, you can do an action straight from the client page. You can drag and drop documents onto a page instead of going to attachments. So there's little shortcuts like that dotted around. We will be looking at the tablet and smartphone version of Inform. I think we just want to get this, the desktop version done. But the smartphone option will be quite useful for floating support services. You can do goals, actions, whatever on the go if you want. We wouldn't necessarily be putting the full version of Inform on tablets and smartphones. It will be a restricted version, but that's on its way. It just means that you don't have to wait until you get to the office to start inputting data or opening up a laptop. You can quickly do things. In terms of the interface, Doug's already said it just looks more modern. It's up to date. The pages are easier to read. It makes use of the screen better. You're going to see all this in the demo. But yeah, it does look quite strange when you first see it, and then it all starts to make sense because nothing's changed. Just the page looks different and it's different colors. And over to Patrick.
So the other benefit of moving to Lightning is that Salesforce, the company that provide all the architecture that Inform's built on, they're focusing all of their sort of ongoing development work and behind the scenes stuff on Lightning rather than on Classic, which means we can start to use the new features that they're building into the database. We've got process flows as our first example. So instead of having a single page that you have to type an entire document on, we can break that down into a step-by-step process to help guide you through it. Sorry about that. They also offer us a custom domain, which will let us host external websites that can feed information into Inform directly. And we've used that for the Elms team. We're going to show you in a minute when we do our demo how we can use that to take external information and put a referral straight onto Inform. And lastly, and a bit more hopefully, Salesforce have put an AI that they've called Einstein into the platform now, and we're going to work on integrating that to hopefully streamline our reporting so we can spend less time on getting information out of the system. We can kind of hand that over to Einstein, and we can then have a bit more time to help you guys and provide support to you directly. Okay.
So what is the same? Basically, everything is still the same. There isn't a single process or record. All the boxes are still in the same places and work the same way. Nothing about how you use Inform is going to change for the time being, unless we want it to change. So the point of upgrading to this really is it gives us a lot more adaptability to develop whatever we want to in the future, basically, and give us a lot more creativity with how we use it. But for the time being, Laughing Buddha wants everyone to chill out and not worry. Nothing's going to change when we turn it on. So timeframes. Over to Justin.
Okay, so the go live date is December the 1st. Although you will have the opportunity to flick between the current version of Inform and the new version. So we're not just going to switch the current version off. So on December the 1st, you'll have something on your screen. We'll show you in a minute, and it will show you how to flick to Lightning and Classic and in between.
I'm back again.
We will be doing some workshops from November through to the end of January. These will be popping into patch meetings, we'll be updating training materials, and hopefully setting up some drop-in sessions for staff so we can go through the new version as well. We will start to heavily push the use of Lightning from January the 1st, and that will mean kind of visual prompts to kind of say, start using it. And then the final one is the final switch is February the 1st. Classic will go, and everybody will be on the new version.
And then goodbye Inform Classic. And we did forgot to say, actually, if you want to put any questions in the chat as we're going along about any of these bits, but we will explain some of this in a bit more detail as we're going through. But what we can do first is let's show you it. Let's get to the demo. I'll unshare my screen, and Patrick can share his one, and then we'll give you a little tour around what the new platform looks like. So we're going to log in through the.
Right, can you all see my screen now?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. This is SharePoint. We have a link on our data team page direct to the new look Inform. Now, hopefully, this has been published before, has it, Doug?
Yeah.
Yep. So people are aware of this and can use it right away.
Yeah. So you can see straight. Hopefully, you've already seen this. We've branded it up, and there's some nice links to the Opportunities website there as well. So we know it's ours basically, rather than a Salesforce.
And here we are on the homepage. Right. Do you want to go straight through to the client page, Doug?
Yeah, let's get straight into the client page.
Right. So we were looking at.
So we're going to look at a YP example that we've set up. So this, folks, is how the client page looks now on the new Inform. And hopefully what we see, as we said, it's nice and branded now. It's a bit more colourful, and I think much more nicely laid out and easier to sort of see what is where and where things are. So if you have a bit of a scroll down, Patrick.
Yeah, the important thing is this details page here is exactly the same details layout you're familiar with from Inform Classic. It's the same fields in the same places with the same sections.
We forgot about that. Have a little look.
And that's down at the bottom.
So if we scroll back up to the top, Patrick.
There we go.
And then what you'll see at the top as well, and we can keep adapting this, but you see at the very, very top under the client name, there's some new headers at the top there with the service, the consent. We've got the expiry date for the support and safety plan. So we can put different bits of information at the top of the client page, depending on what people want to sort of see front and center to remind them of certain things at the top of the page, and start moving these around a little bit. The other thing we are going to do as a development thing, so when we do breakouts later, is start to think, because we've got you separated into profile types now, which are largely accommodation, floating support and young people, we can start adapting these client pages to be a bit more specific to your service types and maybe wording or how things are structured a little bit. So we'll be looking to do that a lot more as well now we've got the new system up. One of the big changes you will see in a minute is a client photo. We can put client photos on here now, and it's very, very easy. So Patrick's going to give you a little demo now of how we can upload very easily client photos to the system, which I think is a really nice development, because it's nice to see where we can what somebody looks like and who they are and their face, to sort of identify them as a person and as a human being on the platform.
Yeah, and essentially how it works is this area on the right is all your new Lightning features. So there's currently a blank box that says drag picture here. And that is exactly how it works. You can get a picture on your computer, drag it and drop it, and then you've uploaded a client photo for that record. If you've dragged the wrong one or you want to put a new one, just drag and drop, and then it will save that client photo and use it as the default for that person.
Sorry, can you do it one more time, please?
I can. So this is the desktop of my computer on the left. Can you see that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I've got a photo on here that I've saved in the past. I can just drag that over, drop it on the face there, and it will upload that picture.
Oh, okay.
And then same again, drag, drop, and it will upload it. And it will accept, I think, just about any image file that you've got. So if you've got a camera in the office, you can take a snap and go straight from the memory card, drag and drop it over.
I think I saw a chat from Kira about privacy notice and data protection. All that stuff will get updated in accordance with this, Kira, and how we use and move the images and delete them and things like that. So yep. Yes, we will be doing that, obviously. But I think, again, in accommodation services for agency and locum staff and LNCs and people, I think, you know, if we've got some pictures of people on the system that are ready and easily available, I think this is going to be sort of quite helpful to services and staff. So that's a new little development. The other one we spoke about was shortcuts, and we're developing this, and we'll do some breakout around this a bit later on, but we've already developed one of them, which is a shortcut to creating an action. So Patrick will take you through.
Well, we've got two here.
Well, yeah, we have.
We're way ahead of things there. So this box here, the actions and recommendations, lets us put common tasks that you might need to do right at the front of the page. So I've got complete the key fields. If I click that one now, it will check and just pull out, you know, those kind of 10, I think it's about 10 thereabouts of the key fields that we need you to complete for each one of your clients. So as long as any of those are missing, you'll get that reminder there to say, well, you need to fill in the national insurance number or the ethnic origin, the sexual orientation, whatever's missing. That will pop up and remind you, complete the key fields. But we do also have, as Doug said, a way to create a client contact directly. So in the past, you'd have to go to the timeline event, open that up, create a new action and choose the client contact, where now you can just click record a client contact. First, it will ask you for the project, and we've only got the one, so that's quite straightforward. And then it'll want the details. And these are the fields that you're probably familiar with from creating an action anyway. So the date and time, what type of meeting is it? Or how long did you spend on it? The communication method, all these drop downs are the same fields we've had in the past. It's just the layout of them's a little bit different. And then you can
type in. But hopefully what you can see there, folks, is much easier to just go on a client page and create a record quickly for that client and get it.
And then that's added on now, and it's automatically attached to the timeline too.
And we will keep developing shortcuts depending on, you know, what you want to see in there to get quick links to do the things that you do quite regularly and a lot of. If you scroll up again, Patrick, let's have a look at the related forms. So on the old inform, on the classic, all the forms sit down at the bottom of the client page. On the new platform, they sit on a separate tab, all nice and tidy. I think hopefully a lot more nicely laid out for everybody. Over to you, Justin.
Okay, so yeah, as Doug said, this is where all of those links now are on the Related tab. And we're not going to go through every one of them because they are the same that you're currently using, but we'll just show you a few. And the first one is goals, and the new button is over on the right-hand side. Just click new as you would normally. And this is your goal page. Just looks a little different in terms of layout, but exactly the same information that you're currently entering. You just create the long goal exactly in the same way. And then once you've completed those fields, you would just click save.
But we're not going to do that now because we want to keep this one a little bit neater.
Yeah. And then of course, there would be a link for you to create your short goal on top of that as well.
So I'll just open up an existing one so you can see what that looks like. There they are underneath.
So as with the current version, you have your long goal and your short goal underneath, shows the same here. So let's look at opening up a casework form. You can see you've got casework there and the button new over on the right hand side as well if you wanted to create one.
Oh, I've got a million of them. Let's just open an existing one.
Yeah. So as you can see, as Patrick's scrolling down, it's the same layout with the summary at the top. And then you'd have your goals and identified risks underneath. Just looks a little bit more modern.
Yeah, and a bit more readable, I think, folks, in terms of the layout. And especially for managers who, you know, have to approve a lot of these and quickly read through them all and see that everything's there and it's all sort of laid out and how you want it. I think that's a nicer thing to be looking at.
Yeah. And then I'll just quickly show you the risk management. Again, new button on the right-hand side if you need to, but we'll show you an existing one.
Yep.
So there you go, exactly the same fields. We've not changed anything. And that's the same throughout the rest of the related lists.
If you scroll down, if you scroll down, Patrick, and show
well, you can see the action that we just created through the shortcut link has been added to the action section. Timelines are as normal, and then you've got all your different fields that we've had in the past. Sorry, different forms that we've had in the past have their own section.
Okay, if we scroll back up now.
One thing to say, right down at the bottom, this is also where the notes and attachments are. So if you want to attach a file to a client records, this is where you do it. And it works just like the picture. I mean, you can already see all the photos that I uploaded as part of the demo. That's where they get stored. But if you want to add anything else, like a client referral document,
drag it in.
You can drag it in, drop it there, and it will attach a copy.
Nice.
So that whole process has been streamlined. Okay.
And if we go to the summary, so you remember we've got the client summary, which is the summary of the support plan and all the stuff that's going on. Which is not...
Actually, before we move away, one thing I will point out very quickly. If I open up a goal, can you see the actions and recommendation options actually change? So we can give different options depending on where you are in Inform as well. So if you've got a goal open, instead of asking you to update the key fields or to add a client contact, you've now got options for setting a new short objective or closing the goal down. So we can vary that depending on where you are as well. It's sort of contextual. Right, back we go.
And that will give us the ability to keep making it more and more intuitive. So depending on what page you're on, you'll get a different set of shortcuts that help you do the work you need to do in relation to what page you're on. So we've got the client summary as well, which is the sort of summary, the staff summary of everything that's on the sort of support and safety plan, along with the confidential box and all that other sort of stuff. That's still attached to the client page, but again, I think just slightly better laid out and easier to read and take in the information, and that'll sit there. So that's essentially the client page, folks. It looks, hopefully you agree, it looks a lot nicer. You move around it a lot nicer, and I think it does. We've got a few questions coming in the chat. We'll come to those in a little bit. Was there anything else on the client page or related forms? I don't think there was, wasn't it? It's just a demo, really. So,
yeah.
We had something about, we'll answer some of these quickly now. There's something about the housing system that we're getting. Yes, we're meeting Castleton next week to talk about the integration between Salesforce and the new housing management system. So hopefully we're going to have some chats around process flows and what we do on here, how that gets across to the other systems, so we're not duplicating things, or staff don't have to duplicate things. There was another quick question about you might know this, Patrick, already or not, if we can get back. On the old Inform, you couldn't do a lot of formatting in the summary in terms of bold and underline and things like that. So is that easier?
It's actually storing the same information. So if you want things formatted, then let us know and we can put in formatable fields. We've just not had that in the past.
So we'll have a look at that.
We can have a look at doing that. I think we can change fields that currently don't have formatting to be able to accept it.
Lovely. And group actions, there is a new thing which we're not going to talk about today called sessions, which is going to eventually replace multi-actions as group actions. But we've got to do a little bit of development on that, but that will allow for different type of group actions being put in there. Lou, that's a part of.
Sorry, Doug, I didn't mean group actions like that. I mean, where you put an action on and you can't see what type of action it is. So if you're looking for a thread of something, you have to go through 50 or 60 actions to find the 2 or 3 that relate to what you're looking for. Is there a way that we can mark the actions to say this is an arrears action, or so that you can easily see and extrapolate just the arrears actions from the full record?
Well, yeah, if you called them arrears actions, we could do that, and all the actions, even on Inform at the moment, can be put onto an Excel spreadsheet and filtered. So
yeah, we've got reports. I thought we had arrears actions as their own action type, Doug.
yeah,
We do.
Yeah, so we can filter those out just based on that then.
You can filter those out. I might just be setting your reports up with your team a bit better, Lou, to be able to do that, but we can already do that anyway. So yeah, but again, all going forward into the future. Right, the next thing we're going to show you a little bit is actually some of the new process flows, and we're going to show you a particular example. If you want to share your screen a minute, Patrick.
I will do that.
And this is to show you a specific example of how we used it already. But when you're looking at it and thinking about how this works, keep in mind what we've got 100 different websites we can use. So how we can use something on an external web page, whether it be the opportunities, our main website, or standalone service websites, and then how we might want to use this for client feedback, surveys, opportunities, people booking up to sign themselves up to things. There's lots and lots and lots of different uses for this that we can think about developing it. But we'll show you how we've developed it so far as the pilot for the Elm service. So over to Justin. If you take us through as if you were a person logging on and trying to get therapy, I suppose.
Okay, so at the moment, I'm on the SHP website and we're going to do a referral to the therapy service. So I'm just going to click on the psychological therapies department and then go to their actual website. So this is their website page. And here you can see we have a refer here. I can refer myself. So I'm just going to click.
And this is already live and available to the public to self-refer into this therapy service.
And I'm just going to start completing the fields that it's asking me. So
And this is an example of the process flows we were talking about earlier, where instead of having a single page, it's broken it down step by step.
I'm not going to bump it back because it's not got a real number.
Hope not.
It should be.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed here.
I did a test earlier and it worked.
Okay.
And I'm just going to put a fake email address in.
Yeah, I've turned off most of the validation rules here just to minimize the chance of hitches.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's going to ask me about being contacted, and I'll just say that they can contact me any day. And it's also asking me, when would I like to meet a counsellor? Morning sessions, afternoon sessions, or evenings? I'm just going to select a couple. And then it just asks me what I want to discuss with a therapist.
I feel traumatized from
I feel
hosting
traumatized
last
from
night's
hosting the game.
gunpowder plot, Patrick.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's saying, do you mind answering some more detailed questions? We're just going to carry on going through. I'm going to agree.
So the reason we put a pause in here, folks, in terms of this referral is to give clients who are potential clients who are referring in the option of providing more information if they feel they can, but also that if they're not ready to do that with us yet, they can still refer in before giving us some more sort of detailed or maybe more private and confidential information. It's an option, basically.
Exactly. So I'm just going to say GP. And then it's just asking me any specific issues. Going to click next. Just ask me about my living situation.
And to be clear here, these are all options that the service specified they wanted to collect. So it's not that these are being set by Inform. We can choose these ourselves.
It's asking me about any drugs. None. And then it's just asking for some demographic details. Again, it's a pause. Should I wish or not to answer these questions? I will just quickly go through them. This is my employment. And that's it. Done.
Now, what we're going to do
Fingers
is
crossed.
jump back to Patrick's screen.
There you go. Yeah.
And hopefully what we'll see is...
Let me share my screen here. And so what I'm going to do from the home page is open up the reports tab, and right at the top is the ELMS referral list. So the ELMS is the actual therapy service that Justin just made a referral to. And what did you call your client, Justin?
I think it was lightning.
Lightning test. There they are, number 3. So they've appeared on the list already. The timeline event's been added to Inform. So I can open that up. And all the options that Justin chose around current support, contact dates, his general description and how he heard of the service have all been translated directly onto the timeline event. It's also created a client page. Here it is, which has the date of birth, as well as the demographic information because Justin chose to complete it. The rest of it's blank. So at this point, if you'd received the referral, you go through and update with any extra information. But the initial setup's been done. So the client page is on there, the timeline event's on there. It's been set as a pending referral, so it will show up in any reports that we've set for the service. And that was without Justin signing into Inform at all. He was acting as just any old member of the public can do that.
Yeah, so just from a website, any website.
So if you unshare again, Patrick, or you can leave it on the screen actually. So for me personally, what really excites me about all this is the potential options of technology opening us up to enable more client input into them, either taking some of the assessment in some services, doing some of the assessment entirely themselves or parts of the assessment, or how much information we get from people if they've got digital access, things like surveys, people signing up to join up to opportunities programs. We can have posters around the services with the QTR code on that if you scan your phone, it takes you to a website where you can book yourself into whatever's available. But it really will enable us to go or set up some platforms and some pages that clients can directly use to feed information directly into Inform that you can then check and then take forward. So hopefully it'll enable a bit more sort of co-production and people people sort of getting involved in some of, inputting information onto Inform in the future. But it certainly gives us lots of possibilities.
And the pie in the sky long-term stuff is it can be used to go the other way as well. So longer term, we can think about, is there any use for getting information out of Inform and putting it onto a web page? That's, yeah, not something we're looking at right now, but it is a possibility.
Rachel, you got a question? The service, this service, I think, is only open to the borough. I think it's this service we just shown you is a particular service for the borough.
Borough and neighbouring boroughs, I think there's about 5 of them in the end.
Yeah, neighbouring boroughs. So you can contact the service, but with all these sort of websites we set up, how we think about what we call them and how we advertise them and how we promote them, either to professionals as well, for professionals to refer in and actually create an assessment that goes straight onto Inform as a professional from probation or young people services or care worker or something, gives us these options of partners actually providing some information rather than putting things in hard copy, basically, maybe a little bit. So,
and actually, Doug, I think that is how the Elms project are currently using it, that if someone who is at another agency phones up to make a referral, they can point, they can and do point them towards that referral system, rather than passing paperwork backwards and forwards.
Yeah, so each, so different services could have their own cards and flyers made up with website addresses and information about how you can refer or do different things into your service through this new platform, basically. So there's lots of exciting options. But we'll do some of this in the breakout in a little bit, folks, and get your brains thinking about how could we use it now we've got the technology to be able to do it. If you unshare, Patrick.
Okay.
And I shall share.
There we go.
And see if. Right one, and then see if we're still in the same place. And just to go into a bit more detail again, folks, we're going to turn this on. We have to turn everybody on at the same time on December the 1st. So we're going to give everybody a bit of notice and send the slides out, and hopefully people will watch the video. But on December the 1st, when you log on in the morning, you will essentially be logging on to the new version. If you're not ready for it yet, or there's things that you feel a bit, you want to check out and just test, you can always switch back to the
Doug, do you want me to share my screen quickly and just do a quick flip to classic and back to lightning so you can see how it works? Because it takes all of a few seconds. It's not a drastic thing.
Let's have a quick look at how we would do that. But we're going to send lots of information out to people about this so we don't freak anybody out too much.
So here I am currently in Lightning. If I click on my little face here, there's a button that says switch to Salesforce Classic. And once it loads up, that pops me back into the Salesforce you all know and, if not love, at least like a little bit. And then right at the top of the page on Classic, there's a link that just says switch to Lightning Experience. And if you click on that, it'll pop you back in.
Super.
So switching backwards and forwards isn't a major undertaking. Right, back to you, Doug. There you go. I thought that'd be better than just a picture on the page.
Yeah, that's all good. So we're going to try and do it gently. We're going to turn it on, give everybody the option of trying to, having the freedoms of flipping in and out of it, get used to it, get used to the layout and the look. And we're going to give everybody sort of a good 3 months really from turning it live till we don't give you the option anymore and everybody's on the same one. Because at some point we're going to need to switch over and get everybody using the same system to be able to develop some of these options that we've been showing you and talking about. Right, folks, what we're going to do now very, very quickly, or not very quickly, we're going to do it for a good period. We're going to do some breakout and get some thoughts and feedback from you. And there's a few things we want to use the opportunity to have a chat about. And some of it's Inform related, but some of it's just a bit broader because we've got you all together. So it's nice to get some thoughts and opinions on things that we're looking at the moment, Inform related, I suppose. One of the first things is we want to develop a new client survey, and this might be service specific in terms of like a young people survey or an adult survey or a floating support survey. We don't know yet. We're going to take lots of views and opinions on it, but the one we currently use is a bit clunky. It's a bit housing management focused, and I think there's probably a lot of sort of pie sort of co-production stuff in there we're not getting or asking really at the moment. So we'd like a bit of feedback from you and your groups about, if we were to design and redesign some new client surveys or feedback, what sort of questions do you think we should be asking people that we're currently not? process development, in terms of the process flow forms that we've just been looking at, like the Elms referral, have a think again in your services. If there's particular forms or things that we do or processes you have to engage in as workers out in the services or managers, is there any you would like to, in terms of prioritizing the data and the IT team, to look at how we could streamline or make some of the process easier on Inform, given what you've just seen, basically. And the third question is a bit of a moon on a stick one. You know, while you're all together, if there's anything you can think of that you've either asked for before or haven't asked for before, or is it entirely possible that we can make Inform do this for us? And a bit of creative thinking in terms of, you know, where could we take it possibly? Let's have some sort of moon on a stick requests that while we've got you all together, of things that we may or may not sort of be able to look into and see if we can do in some sort of capacity.
Yeah, Doug's really looking for you to challenge me on this one.
Yeah, Patrick's an exceptionally good programmer, and I want to try and sort of keep him on his toes with some really far out requests of stuff that we may or may not be able to do. So I think Lou has been popping you all into fairly sort of focused groups in terms of being in similar sort of service types. So accommodation services together, maybe Lou's smiling with, have you managed to do that, Lou? Yeah, maybe YP services together, floater support services together, because we thought it'd be useful to have sort of chats within sort of service types, because what YP services might want to see developed or do differently might be very different to some of our adult accommodation services. So how are we doing for time? I think we can probably do a breakout for about 20 minutes, Lou, in the groups, and you can come back with one answer for each question, or you can come back with as many answers as you like for each question, but it's sort of thoughts on some new questions for client survey, anything process-wise you'd like to see developed, and anything you'd like to see if we could possibly make it work on Inform, really. Does that make sense, everybody? Quick thumbs up all around if that's all good. What we're going to do now, folks, we're going to do a bit of feedback, get a bit of that down, and get hopefully some nice input from you all. And then for the last sort of 10 minutes of the presentation, after we've done that, Doug's got a hard data to show you, just to sort of end on a really hard data note, which you're all going to be really happy about. So who was in group number one? Who was group number one?
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel. I'm feeding back for room one. Accommodation services. I'll be really quick. So question number one, what questions would we ask? We would like to ask how safely the client felt. And what did you not like about your SHP experience? What are our priorities? Medication profiles. And we'd really like an ease of access of data from during on-call hours into the in-hours handover. Moon on a stick. What would it be like if we could do it? An ability to use reminders on the dashboards or somewhere. We'd really like a bridge or some connectivity between the upcoming Castleton and our new Inform. That would be really, really cool.
We're all hoping for that, Daniel.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Fantastic. A quick print off of vital information for emergency services needs when we're in an emergency situation. We need information, or the police, ambulance services need things. They're in there, and some client-facing data, just to incorporate the client's experience. Give them maybe an SHP email address, maybe a dashboard, so they can see what their time has been like during the service, the actions, the reports that have been written about them, and maybe some electronic signatures that they can take part in their experience with us.
Cool, thank you. There is a medication record that's sort of on our test site on the sandbox behind things at the moment that is almost ready to go, actually, which is a medication record and a medication prescription sort of sheet. But we are still updating information on that from the mental health services and managers to try and make sure that it's populated correctly and works properly, because we don't want to get people's medication wrong. But that is already in development, that one, Daniel. Yeah. Group two. Who's group two? Can you remember? Lou, who was group two?
Me or us?
I don't know.
Oh, was it you,
Group
Finn?
2 was us. We didn't nominate anyone to feedback. So as soon as I did the typing, Scott, do you want to feedback?
Come on, Scott. Where are you?
On mute. That's no excuse.
I'm off mute now. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, so questions about safety. What would you like? Medication profile, access of data during on-calls or in our handover, an ability to use reminders, connectivity, a bridge between Castletown inform needs.
Scott,
Hang on, this is the same one.
Scott, yeah, I think you're reading our one.
Okay, sorry. Am I reading number 2 then? Sorry.
Yeah, no, the number 2.
Daniel's one.
Right, sorry. How are finding the accommodation you're currently living in? So the questionnaire, how is your room, communal space? What improvements would you like to see, if any? Support. To what degree are we helping you to process your aspirations and goals? How would you like us to work with you to support you to achieve your goals? Catering, how well are we meeting your dietary needs? How well are we meeting your cultural needs through our catering offerings? Culture, how well do you feel your culture and diversity is respected and celebrated when the support offered and with staff who work with you? Engagement, what activities would you like to engage with if these could be offered? What services have you engaged with currently? Did you experience any barriers to engaging with any activities or support? What aspects of engaging with SHP would you like to have a decision in? How would you like to be able to give us any ideas? Second. Oh, question 2, drag and drop is much easier. Can external agencies do referrals to our services, housing, mental health? Can walkabout checks be made so we can fill in this straight onto the system? Can the arrears actions be linked between Inform and Pyramid? Can the equals or petty cash be put into Inform? And can you drag and drop the receipts and expense claims in there too? Reminder prompts for health and safety compliance. And then the third one would be need a hardware to make the most of the new technology, issue tablets, for example. Can we have tablets to teach clients how to use IT? And can we have a service page like we did before? And can we have a search function and FAQ, how to function, so we can search things. So we do have any problems, then we can just type in keywords.
Thank you, Scott.
That's us.
Lovely. Group 3, that was Finbar and the YPs.
I suppose what we were talking about, we kind of mainly focused on how we can get information from clients, residents really. But we did talk about a few other bits, like, so we're saying in initial assessments and stuff, it'd be nice to be able to have Inform, so you can use it on a tablet. So there's like with drop down quick answer questions. So you can capture some information, but you're not, yeah. So, but there is some information there that you can capture, but then you can go in and write it up later, but you're still getting some of the information you need. I think we were talking about the leaving surveys, making them more accessible, more personal to SHP and young people's services. But also I think this links in is that the idea of having QR codes, I think is a really good idea. It links into a few of the other bits we were talking about, where a young person has more ability and more control. So it's not always mediated through the key worker. If they want to make a criticism, or if they would like to say something which is difficult, it's easier to do it on a kind of, they scan that and then they answer the questions they need in a kind of really simple order with an ability to have comments. And that's the same for complaints procedures. I think that would be really, really useful way of opening that up instead of all complaints go to me to begin with on a piece of paper. So that really kind of does put a barrier.
Funnily enough, that exact situation was one of the first things that I came up with when I was thinking what else we could do with it too. The QR codes for things like complaints and to collect information, I thought would be a good idea.
Yeah. And then we talked about initial room surveys also. So a young person can, again, using the QR things, do an initial room survey about, do you have this, do you have that, which goes in line with what the license agreement says. And then maybe that could be linked to the bed space and even possibly have a photo of the room when they moved in so they can see it afterwards. So we have that evidence, they have that evidence of what it was like. Then we thought about them being able to have intermittent kind of progress checks, so personal reflections for themselves, where young people could kind of state how things have been going, what's not been going well, and then they could have access to those records possibly as well, so they can see their progress or not, and see what they were thinking 6 months ago and what they're thinking now. And then again, tablets to link to Pyramid Online maintenance and walkabouts. That one.
Cool, thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Group 4, floating support. I think it's Adam's group. Well, Adam, you're first on the list. I don't know who's feeding back from group 4. It was Adam, Daniel, and Fleur, etc. is in the chat.
Peter, are you? I know you were taking the
notes.
I've
got the notes, Adam.
Feedback. Are you okay to feedback?
Yes, I'll do that. Okay, so on the first question, there was one suggestion about maybe if we ask the question, what is the dreams and aspirations, and how I'm using that framework to say, is the client able to move forward after the support they've received? So how you're kind of like trying to tap into their understanding of being able to work without support going forward, because they've received good support and therefore they're resilient and they have all the tools they need to go forward with their life. You know, that kind of question. It's a bit touchy-feely, yeah. And someone asked was asking a question around how does a service user stay in connection with the support or the key worker after they've left the service, or maybe coming back in a volunteering sense, or what is the relationship after a case closure? What does that look like, you know, etc. Question 2. So Doug, you know this one, but we had a conversation around the emphasis. What I didn't want to do was get caught in an argument. The emphasis around having the managers, let's say in supervision, talk about relationships with us and our clients, so that we're able to concentrate rather than the emphasis on the form filling. As the light inform is streamlined and other aspects of the IT is streamlined, it should release hours to us, but not to take up those hours in more form filling and more writing, but to move the emphasis and understanding towards conversations with clients and relationships.
And as I said, Peter, the hope for all of us would be that if we streamline forms or administration or writing, that the spare time isn't taken up with the creation of new
new Shakespearean plays, yes, new tragedies, yes. And then the moon on the stick was was a good one from Helen. She wanted a fleet of vans to help move clients in and out of accommodations, so that maybe available to SHP. But as Doug pointed out, that wasn't relative to the IT, but I think it's a good idea.
It's not within our remit in the data team to be able to, but we'll include it anyway and pass it on.
No, we can't just put a Wi-Fi router in the back of the van and claim it's IT, can we?
Group 5 was a bit of floating support and a bit of flick.
Okay, I then think I was the nominated or delegated presenter on that one. I wasn't ready, 1 second. Right. So with regards to the first question, client survey, client feedback, generally felt that this should be similar to the questions already used, i.e., sort of rating the service, maybe should include their previous circumstances. Our room had a very sort of housing focus to it. So previous circumstances compared to now. It should also include question around choice, whether they feel their choice has been taken into consideration. Have they also received a copy of their support plan? And also to have room for clients to insert their own opinions. One of the things that was mentioned with this question is that with certain services, the expectations, so if you were to ask a question like, do you feel your needs have been met? You're likely to get a high number of the responses saying that they haven't been met because those outcomes may have been unrealistic. For example, they wanted social housing, and because they haven't got that, their needs haven't been met. However, they are housed safely. We did mention some things that it's important to think about, how the questions are worded, being able to make it anonymous, consider using like SurveyMonkey and possibly linking that to Inform, and specific page on the website for clients to provide regular feedback, and that they should be regular, not just at the point of exit. So that's client survey and feedback. Second one was process development. What are our priorities? Helpful to capture someone's housing history more clearly. So somehow capture the outcomes on the system all in one place instead of having to look at each individual timeline to see what the outcome was on each. Capturing the history, someone's housing history and their move on journey within SHP. One of the things that was talked about is that when the address is updated, the old address may disappear and doesn't actually stay on the system. So that would be useful to have. And also mention that there would be different process development and priorities for different types of service. Moon on the stick. It was more focused on reports, having more interactive reports, having links and being able to maximize options. So currently, when you're looking at options, you might only be able to see 1 or 2 lines, but actually being able to get all of that. Notifications to pop up, I think that may be related to like reminders. Notification for update for clients. So the manager can know when an action was entered for the clients. If that's wrong, please correct me, my team 5. And be able to see when the case was last reviewed or looked at by the staff. And then there was something about a drop-down list with headings, I think, again, in relation to reports.
Yeah, can I jump in there very quickly to say that actions currently, when you put an action in, if you've got a client that you've been working with actively and there's over 100 actions, if there's a group of actions that have been dotted periodically throughout the time that you've been working with that client, say for instance about finance and budgeting, you have to read through all the actions to find all of those actions that you entered about finance and budgeting. So I was thinking it would be nice if we could have something where you could do a report to pull back all those particular actions about financing and budgeting, and hence mental health or any other issues that clients might have. I don't know if that's possible, but that was my moon on the stick, being able to try and get the actions about particular issues back in one place so you could have a history of the actions that you dealt with that client.
Understood. Thank you. And have we got one more?
Can I just add on to that?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, likewise for me, running a report on actions is useful, but the only issue that I have with it is you're not able to see the whole action. You get a snapshot of the actions, so you can't like sort of expand it and see the whole actions, and there's not a link that you can click onto when you run a report on actions to be able to just easily click into an action and see it. Don't know if I'm making sense, but it's not as interactive as it could be.
I'm not sure how you're exporting the actions. There are two ways you can export actions, and one of them only gives you, I think, the first couple of sentences, and then there's another way which I think is fully export details, and it gives everything. But unfortunately, once it exports into Excel, you have to start making your cells bigger and rows bigger just to get all the information. But the information does show, and I'll contact you after. I'll email you after about that.
Cool.
But I think it's come across in a few places around either people's knowledge or how you can pull different bits off it and filter it to see the sort of themes that you want to see rather than all the actions jumbled up. So we'll definitely get onto that for everybody. And was there one more group? Group 6, I think. Was that group 6? Was there one more?
Yeah. We made a few notes. So yeah, just in terms of the client survey, we sort of talked about how we thought it was a bit too repetitive at present, and that a majority of the questions are rating based, that are more appropriate to sort of being open questions, particularly things like the religious and cultural needs and that kind of thing. Be good if we could have the choice on such questions to either have a rating if the client would prefer to do a rating, or kind of give an open answer. We just talked about how we just thought kind of client surveys, the more anonymous, not anonymous, or the more kind of detached, the better. So making sure that they're not conducted by the person that's been directly working with them, and if there's a way of sort of making sure that Inform reflects that. And yes, just kind of emphasis on the client kind of being able to kind of dictate how the survey is conducted and in the best way for them. Something that occurred to me is that, do we have a capacity for feedback surveys to be done online, so there's no actual need for SHP staff to be involved in conducting the surveys?
Good idea.
Just on the second question, we talked a bit, well, we kind of generally said that it seems pretty great. Lightning seems to be very intuitive, such as adding actions and uploading documents and things. We like the photo feature, that it's all the personalization, humanization of each client, and that actually it reminds us that there are people behind these sort of stats that we have, and that actually it might kind of improve handovers, and it might be more inclusive to kind of locum and night workers, things like that. And yeah, we just kind of mentioned that referrals going straight into the system will save a lot of time, hopefully. And then on the last moon on a stick question, Dave talked a little bit about having some sort of verification system, and a lot of us sort of agreeing that in terms of kind of service contact information, opening hours, we've quite often found that things aren't up to date. So maybe having a clearer system perhaps of knowing where the responsibilities lie in terms of ensuring updating information on Inform. We talked a little bit about, I mean, again, a lot of this is kind of repetition of what other people have mentioned in terms of alerts and prompts for things like expiring casework forms, maybe on dashboard or separate alerts. And then the kind of final thing that we mentioned was uploading emails, that actually, I don't know about everyone else, but I used to kind of rely on saving emails as attachments and then adding them as an attachment to a certain action. But that's sort of changed with Microsoft 365. I'm doing a lot of copy and pasting, it's being reformatted to minimize the amount of data, I think. But it means that it's not as readable because of the reformatting. So if there was like a lovely way to quickly translate the email comms to Inform without the need for reformatting, that would also be good.
I think that certainly fits the moon on a stick category, that one. But
yeah.
Have a look into it. Thank you for that, everybody. There's some lovely points there, and there's plenty for us to be chewing over in the data team about how to develop and think about moving these things. And it's not a finite process like all these things. This isn't, we're taking this, using the feedback, we'll trundle off and we'll go and get on with it. It's an ongoing process. We'll be coming out to patch meetings and team meetings, and just keep this, once we've got the technology in place, keep evolving, thinking, tweaking and changing how we do things and how we record things to make it streamline, much, you know, as much more client focused as possible, and as Peter would like us to do, save those hours where we can, so there is more client contact, conversation, and doing the job time basically, or the client support time. That's what we're after.
Sorry, can I ask, you know, on the new Lightning one, regards to actions, is there a space where, you know, like when you do there's actions on the page, sometimes the action's quite a big action, the information's quite big, but it only shows you a little bit of that information, so you have to click in to see what that bigger action is. Is there a way that we could have, I don't know, like maybe a little spot that we can go over, so it just kind of opens that up, so if you hover over that spot, it opens it up, and then it will just go back in, if that makes sense, as you're going in, rather than having to click on the actual action with the number on it to open it up to look into.
I'll get you. That's going to go in the moon on a stick category, Jason. We'll pop that in. But, you know, we'll look at all of these things, all these little things that might just save a few minutes here and there, or seconds here, or tweaks there, or just make everyone's lives a bit easier. We will constantly keep looking at what the technology can and can't do. And like I said, Patrick is a very good programmer, so if we can do it with the code that we use, then we'll try and do it for you all. We're nearly there, folks. I'm going to very, very quickly roll through the last bit of the presentation. A little bit quicker. What we were going to quickly round up on was just a little bit of a data catcher, really. It's been 3 years since we put the casework in, and the goals and the outcomes and all the rest of it. And I thought it'd be nice to show you that we are tracking a lot of this stuff. I know there's all sorts of opinions on hard outcomes around the organisation. We've heard lots of case studies and anecdotal feedback as well over the last week. But we in the data team have to collect hard evidence for all of our commissioners and all sorts of other people. So we're doing this at the moment, you know, and we're working across the organisation and keeping track of how many people we've supported, how many people we work with, whether the closures are positive or not. Currently, this was in April we did this, so it'll be even higher now, but we had close to 40,000 long-term goals achieved in 3 years by April this point, across all of our services. I'm sending out the slides, so I won't dwell on this too much, and we're nearly on time. Got some client demographic stuff in there for you all to have a look at in terms of when we talk about, you know, people and the outcomes and achieving things for people, who are the people that we're talking about? So there's a bit of information about the different types of services, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, religion, and disability types we've got across the organisation. A topical thing and a very interesting thing, if you look at actually ethnicity, over the 3 years that I looked at the client EDI report, which hopefully is going to be out for you to all have a look at and be published soon, our client population in SHP is 65% Black, ethnic and mixed ethnicity, Asian. So we've got a majority population of Black, Asian, mixed ethnicity clients across the organisation. It's very high in young people's services, a little less in some of the other services, but that is our majority population. And it's certainly not the majority of the London population. So we see the disbalance in terms of systemic racial inequality within our society playing itself out in our services. So there's a big report on this, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it soon. But I think when we talk about outcomes we get for people, let's be clear about who the people are that we're getting the outcomes for. Quickly rail through floating support over the 3 years, 4,000 people nearly helped to stay in their homes and not lose their homes and stay in their community. Over 400 possession orders prevented, so stopping people getting their homes taken away through court. People doing the training. We've over the 3 years now moved over 3,000 people in, secured their own homes. So if you think about the London housing market and how difficult, well, you all know how difficult that is to find, secure and get somebody into their own accommodation. We've done that over 3,000 times now in the last sort of 3 years. And this is where we move people into. And I show this because there's a lot of PRS on there, because that's the London market. But we have moved an incredible amount of people into social housing. So long-term, low-cost, stable social housing. getting on for nearly 1,000 people. Health, had lots of health outcomes, and thousands of people we've helped with mental health, physical health. Nearly 750 people have been supported. These are closed goals. These are achievements that you've told us about and put on the system. People that have supported with substance use. Incidents, we know we've dealt with nearly 450 serious health incidents over the last 3 years. So that is staff working with the emergency services to deal with a serious incident and support somebody to make sure they don't lose their life or end up in a really, really bad situation. And these are ones that we've effectively, safely managed over the years. Over 1,000 people have been supported into education, nearly 1,000 to vocational training. We're getting on for nearly 1,000 now, people supported into work, and lots of people doing the Achieving Potential program. So thousands of people have been enabled and supported by the staff to get into education, training, work, independence and self-actualization. We help a lot of people achieve goals around just getting some income in place and helping people to manage money. Nearly 1,000 people we've supported to reduce their debt to a manageable level. So again, a little think about the amount of stress we've reduced for people in their lives. And social, we've got a lot of people coming into the Opportunities Programme, attending service events, workshops, all the things that you're all doing. We're sort of looking and monitoring about the engagement, the impact, the outcomes. Are we having the sort of impact that we want to have in the organisation? And around London. And the final slide, it is all of you that do this. This is what you've told us about in terms of what you've achieved with your clients through the support that you've provided. So from us, we just want to say a little thank you to everybody. You are superstars. You do a very hard job. There's been lots of chats this week about, I think, we're not social workers, you're not probation officers, you're not prison officers, you're not hospital staff, you're not housing officers or council workers. There's all sorts of people in the sector that I think sometimes we feel like we're a little underneath some of these roles because of how things are framed in the third sector. I never see it that way. I think you're all superstars. Caseworkers are incredibly important in terms of somebody getting to where they need to get to and a service working in a certain way. And I think largely we do that. So from me and the data team, thank you all very much.